Welcome to Ask Kristi Business English Open Forum. Today, I am going to dive right in to a subject that I find kind of interesting and came up over the weekend. Actually, before I get started, I will just mention that yesterday, France won the World Cup. So we are the World Cup champions. Very exciting over here in France, and we're all a little bit tired today, I think. But Business English Open Forum. I would like to open up a subject today that will come up again in sort of different focuses. This weekend, I was speaking with a few different people who all speak multiple languages. And we were talking about the effect or the quality of having an accent, having a foreign accent. For myself, I had not only just an American accent, but a Southern Japanese accent when I lived in Japan, because I lived in Kagoshima, and people would laugh and make fun of, like when I would go north to Tokyo, people would make fun of my Kagoshima accent. Here in France, I have a mix of my American accent, but again, I live in the South, and my husband has a very strong, rough accent that I've picked up. So the combination of the rough Southern accent and my American accent kind of confuses people. They usually can't tell where I'm from because I don't have an American accent trying to speak Parisian French. My French is kind of rough, so people kind of don't know where I'm from, but they definitely know I'm a foreigner. That comes across right away. I think back to some foreigners that I worked with in the United States and the challenges they had having people take them seriously in business because they had one kind of accent or another. And then more recently, I was speaking with someone here. They were also talking about how difficult it was. They were talking about, there was two different people who speak English as a second language, and how the accent of the other country was difficult for them to understand. So this was someone from both people speaking English as a second language, trying to listen when each of them had an accent. And how that makes things more difficult. And also, I think, the level of how an accent makes people perceive you differently because they catch your accent and they understand you are a foreigner. I have a friend who's Japanese who went to one of the best universities in Japan. He could speak English, I would say, just about perfectly. His English was fantastic. And we went to the United States, and in traveling in the United States, because he had a bit of an accent, he came off sounding more cute than really well educated. And he wasn't used to that. He'd been a man growing up in Japan in some of the best schools. People took him very seriously. And then in the United States, people were like, oh, aren't you cute because you have a foreign accent? And that was really difficult for him. So the subject came up this weekend with some friends. We were talking about having an accent, what that means when you speak any foreign language. So this isn't just business related, although it becomes, I think, more important when we're talking about professional communication. We were just talking about what that means, how people perceive you with an accent, and how that makes you feel. And it brought up just recently, it came to my attention, there was an article in Entrepreneur magazine. And here, let's see, where's the title of this? So this is an article in Entrepreneur Europe, and it is written by Olivia Angelescu. And the title of this jumped out and caught my attention. It says, "How My Strong Eastern European Accent Turned Out to Be My Biggest Business Asset." Now, I will tell you, when I read this, when I caught that title, I thought, really? How is an Eastern European accent your biggest business asset? It caught my attention just because I'm interested in accents, etc. I put a link to the article down below in the comments, and I will also talk a little bit more about it over on my website. But, and I hope you'll go and you'll read this article because I find it quite interesting. When we get down to it, I'm looking through here. Basically the point that I really liked about this article is that instead of finding her accent to be a liability, something that made her feel bad, she took that and used that as a reason to inspire herself to work even harder to improve every other aspect of her performance. She really got serious, put in extra effort, and it pushed her to higher levels of success because she anticipated that her accent would be a liability, but she didn't let it be a liability. She used it to push herself to becoming even more successful, more polished, more practiced. And I found that really inspiring, to take the idea of having an accent and instead of accepting, oh, I sound, not as sharp, or however, I don't want to put too many adjectives out there. But this article by Olivia Angelescu really takes the idea of having an accent and kind of turns it around and makes it a reason just to push yourself even harder. The reason it caught my attention is I realized that I myself, and maybe it's because I speak English as a second language, and so I have it easier in the world going out speaking another language. So if I was in Japan and or France, people accept that I'm an American speaking a second language. And so maybe I don't push myself as hard as I should to either to counterbalance that, or even try and limit the effect of my accent, how strong my accent might be. I think the world is not as kind to people who speak English as a second language. I feel like in the world of business, and I touched on this a few weeks ago when I was talking about my friend who works with foreigners, and she was applauding everyone for putting in the effort to learn how to speak English as a second language. I think if you are working in English, people expect you to have a very high level of communication. I feel like maybe people are not very patient when you have a strong accent. So the idea, today I don't have any solutions. I don't have any quick fix, one step exercise that's going to erase anyone's accent. But I would like to get the conversation going on how people feel about having an accent, how people's perceptions of us, anyone speaking a foreign language, might be affected by the fact that we're speaking with an accent. And I think I'm going to start doing a little bit of research. How can we best put in the effort to reduce having an accent so you can speak as clearly as possible? That's probably going to be the most important part. I think we need to first maybe approach it with the right attitude and a good spirit, and then put in the effort to pronounce things as best as we can. And people speaking English as a second language, I really would like to consider this. I think the subject of having an accent is a little difficult for me because, or how, not the subject of accent, sorry, but like the thinking of how to help you reduce your accent, how to say things in a better way. It's difficult for me to explain that. And I think it's because I actually have a good ear. So when I hear a foreign word, I usually can say it pretty well. Or like people are usually impressed. If I say a Polish word, someone says it to me, I can say it back the right way. So for me, I have sort of an ease at listening and repeating and not everybody has that ear. So how do we take a word that we're listening to, a word that has its regular pronunciation, and how do we get it out in the best way possible? I'm going to do a little bit of research into that subject, and hopefully we can improve together as we move forward. Today, I just really wanted to introduce the subject and start the conversation about accents and sort of what it means. Are there pros, cons? The article that I have a fly flying in my face. The article that Olivia Angelescu wrote in the Entrepreneur magazine, I think has a really positive message and a really kind of motivational spirit for anyone who's learning any foreign language, especially people who want to work in a professional setting. And she speaks specifically about speaking English, having an accent, and succeeding in business. So I will hope all of you will click on the link below. I put it in the comments. I will put it over at my website, jukukristi.com, where every week I have a blog post where people can go and find information about this exact class and whatever subject we're discussing today. Today, we were talking about accents, pros, cons, getting the conversation started. And I'm going to put some research into figuring out how I might best help you get a better accent when you are speaking English. There must be some good tricks, some good methods that will help make it easier. So look for that in the future as classes come down the pipeline. So this class, Ask Kristi, the Business English Open Forum, is open to everyone, people who are speaking English as a second language. I'm hoping that we can all get together, share comments, share challenges, get a conversation going, and we can all learn from each other's questions, and I will do the best I can to give the best answer. Today really wasn't a question and answer. I was really proposing a subject that I find interesting, and I think everybody probably finds a little bit stressful, especially if you are going to be working in English, using business English in a professional setting. Having an accent is something that we do need to take into consideration and maybe come up with some plans as to how to counterbalance what might be a weakness. And as Olivia wrote in her article, she used it to kind of push herself forward and be even more motivated and become more successful, which is something I wish for everyone who's out there watching. So listen, go ahead, check out my website, jukukristi.com. There's always more information. You can get in touch with me there. You can submit questions to this forum at questions@jukukristi.com. I look forward to getting your messages. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and come and see me next week. See you then.